Good morning, viewers. Welcome to this edition of Focus on Parliament on Civic Space TV. I am your host, Agather Atuhaire, and as usual, we want to look at the issues that have happened in Parliament, the events and the processes that have taken place this week. I think we will start with COSASE, which is in the eye of the storm for apparently it is endangering the commercial aspects of the Uganda Airlines by giving it bad press. And COSASE is reviewing the reports of the Auditor General on the Uganda Airline, which was found out that many other issues like the recruitment of staff and the salaries was also one other issue that probably Ugandans did not know about. We want to discuss that, but mainly the bit about the chairperson of COSASE being guided, as they called it, by the speaker, but also by the board of Uganda Airlines to stop having the committee meetings on camera or openly to the public. We also want to look at the rationalisation and merging of agencies, a process that was started a few years ago. Last week, the president met the NRM caucus in Kololo to discuss it. It has been a stalemate for a while, and I think it was still a stalemate because the document he kept referring to, the MPs had not got it, which I also have failed to get up to now. It's a cabinet document. Also, we'll briefly look at the parish development model and the issues that have come up so far, with MPs saying that there are no seedlings for farmers to plant, yet the rains have come, and also there were also issues of mismanagement. And to that end, the Committee of Public Service and Local Government tabled reports that were discussed this week regarding the matter, and their findings also tabled on the floor of Parliament. To discuss all that, I have a very, very vibrant panel. I'll start from my far left, Honourable Paul Mwiru, former MP for Jinja Municipality East, and led Public Accounts Committee in both the 9th and 10th Parliament, right? Right. Deputy, yes. Honourable Paul Mwiru, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning, viewers. And I'm a member of the Alliance for National Transformation.
Just a member, or are you?
I'm a member. We have equal rights. All members. That's why I'm not bothered whether I'm a member or because I know we have equal rights. Nobody has a sense of entitlement, and we are defined more.
How does that work? Equal rights with no leadership or something?
The leadership is there, but why there's no sense of entitlement? Maybe to put it right. And we can be more defined than the color, beyond the color.
Yes.
We have a value-based political organization. Yes, so I'm proud to some member of Alliance for National Transformation.
Thank you for reminding us, Honourable Paul Mwiru. I had forgotten that point. The lady in blue, I don't know if it also signifies being a member of one of the parties, but the lady is Charity Ahimbisibwe. Charity heads the Electoral Laws Institute in Uganda. You're welcome to the show, Charity.
Thank you very much, Agatha, and greetings to our viewers.
Last but not least, Jeff has been a part of us before so many times. Jeff works with the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group as the Parliamentary liaison. Jeff Wadulo, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
The name is Wadulo.
Wadulo, yes. Yeah. Thank you, Agatha, and good morning, viewers.
Thank you, Jeff. Let's go right into it, and I am going to start with you, Honourable Mwiru, on this issue of, because having led the Parliamentary, a Public Accounts Committee, you would know how some of these things work, whether they are provided for in the law or there are pros and cons. The issue that the Speaker of Parliament writes to the chairman of COSASE and says, hold these meetings in camera. I think it's Rule 23, which says all committee meetings must be open, with the exception later of the Public Appointments Committee. What does this mean? Because how do you now balance wanting to protect, for the argument, to protect the commercial viability of the airline against the need for the public to know the right to access to information and things like that?
Well, I think we need to look at what is taking place in Parliament from a broader perspective. You know, here in Uganda, people miss a point. They split with an argument.
Yes.
And then you all focus on that. I want to start from an angle from Article 1 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, which is to the effect that power belongs to the people. It is them who choose how they want the power to be used, and through regular, free and fair election or through their representatives. And in this case, the people, we got all our powers and put them in our leaders in Parliament. When we gave away our powers to our members of Parliament, it is created under Article 79. It clearly brings out the functions of Parliament, or members of Parliament. And in the interest of time, I only want to concentrate on oversight. You understand?
Yes.
So let people not look at it as if we are debating a letter by an individual who expresses his view on how he thinks things should be handled. I think you need to approach them from a perspective, me as a voter, as a Ugandan. How do I wish affairs of the country to be handled? So what did we do? There's a chapter on tax. I pay tax. And when I pay tax, the money goes to the consultative fund. The same constitution tells us that that money to leave the constitutive fund, Parliament must vote on that money, that it is used by government in form of appropriation. So when that money is voted to the various entities of government, when it is appropriated, still the law guides that after the money has been spent, there must be accountability. Under Article 163, it creates the Auditor General's office, whose work is to look at this money which was voted and expended. How was it used?
Yeah.
This is to start with. And that constitution, to my recollection, I think 164, it creates a very strict obligation on liability. That even when you have left office, you can be invited to explain how you use the public money. It's a public pass. This to start with. So in the giving effect to all what I've talked about, the framers of the Constitution went under Article 90. They created the committees of Parliament. And they said there shall be committees of Parliament to enable Parliament to execute its mandate through those committees. And from Article 90, Parliament came up with the rules of procedure to give effect to Article 90, to operationalize Article 90, where we create these committees. First, I want to set one thing very clear. And I see when you look at Uganda, at times you wonder whether I'm in the right generation or there is a problem. They have trivialized the entire to look as if it's about Joe Rosenyonyi and they speak of the letter. This is not an affair of two people. You understand? Joe Rosenyonyi or the COSASE did not look for a complaint on the street. You understand? So some of us need to be excused. You understand? The law as is creates what we call an audit cycle. The audit cycle starts with appropriation. You understand?
Yeah.
When money is appropriated, finance guides that this money is going to do ABCD and the way actually it is used. The way the money must be expended. Then after, Auditor General must do an audit, and that audit report for information, it is read in the Parliament. You understand? And it is the Speaker who says that this committee report is received and stand referred to the relevant committee for scrutiny and report back to Parliament.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yes.
So the committee of Parliament is acting on behalf of Parliament and on behalf of Ugandans. You understand? So these maneuvers, you see, under the new normal, there's a lot of paranoia, and there's also a lot of fear. The people even fear to say what is right, for fear of being misunderstood, for fear of living in the limelight. I occupy the political space, and nobody can fit in mine. If you cross it, I have a right at any cost to say no, please, don't occupy my space. So what we are seeing actually, to me, the chairman of the committee in his own right, by the way, those rules the way they are.
Yeah.
Even has powers to listen to a witness, even in the camera, because I've never been in the committee. There are witnesses who would come and tell you, Mr. Chairman, there's some information I want to give you. but I think it will jeopardize the investigation, or it will impact on me as a person.
Yeah.
If it is known that SME was given the information. There are times when we have discussed as committees and say we discussed amongst the members and say, look, this person is raising. I'll give an example. When we are dealing with the OPM investigation, the undersecretary was the accounting officer. I think she was called Mrs. Flavia Wadulo. She came and said she wants to talk to us in the camera. Of course, she had done their own machinations. You understand? Of course, I was chairing by then I said it can have two ways. The woman can say, I had information, you failed to take the information. So I talked to members that it is us to listen to her. Let us tell the media to get out. I think you were there by then. Let us listen to her.
Yeah.
If what she's saying there falls under what must be heard in the camera, then we do it. In case it does not, once we say and does not lead there, we shall call the media back and the investigation goes on. You understand? Then the other issue. Because you see when you say...
But before you leave that issue, so you're saying the chairperson of a committee should have the discretion to say, this is something I should hear in camera.
You see, when you are chairing first that committee, first when the issue of political parties, I've seen some unserious people saying that, you know, this is our person from our area, this is our person from our party. You see those unserious people. The investigation, Dr. Gino's report, doesn't have anything to do with political parties. You understand? It's about the money which you and me paid as taxpayers. So a serious chairperson, if a witness requested that there's some information which will help the committee to arrive at a fair decision, the chairperson can talk to the members and say, we are faced with this situation. What should we do? If that is correct. But that should not be abused to protect criminals.
Yeah.
Because I saw there used to be a situation that when we start an investigation, they would rush to court. And so the matter is in court, is sub judice. But the law gives the speaker pronounces himself to know whether the matter is sub judice or not. Like we were dealing with the Kazinda matter. Because people had taken a lot of money and they took the Kazinda to court, they had tried to write to the speaker then to tell us to stop the investigation. And the speaker, she didn't, at first consult us who were chairing. She wrote to us a letter. So I went to her office and said, Madam Speaker, you have written to me this letter. But if you don't mind, I think procedurally you would have reached out. Maybe to us, so that we enrich your letter. You understand? So that we know what exactly these people are raising. So I told you that in my understanding, if Parker starts on an investigation and someone goes to court to bring a court order, the intention is to defeat
the work of
the work of Parliament. But if the matter was in the court
before
and Parliament started, maybe it is plausible that you would give a ruling to what we would deal with and what we will not deal with. So she wrote another letter telling us to go on because we had a discussion. You understand? But also what I want to conclude with, of course, I've had the benefit to work with both speakers at a personal level. So I don't think they think that I have anything personal about them. Personally, I'm not terrified about their might. You understand? But my advice to them that they must remember the oath. You know, every member of Parliament takes oath. And that's why they exclude the members of the public when you go to be sworn in and they go in the gallery. That you who has got the public duty, as you are doing your work, just the way my sister Charity will tell you that as a lawyer you have a duty to the public, to your client, and to court. You understand? So he as a speaker must know that they don't have a duty to the appointing authority, those who selected them to become speakers. You understand? Before they came for ratification in Parliament. But they have a duty even to Paul Mwiru, who is a senior citizen somewhere, who has some knowledge fairly on how government works. You understand? To me, it's an act which is high-handed for someone to say, please stop, don't do this. Because you see, we're going to reach a level when the people being investigated determine how business should run in the Parliament. Because first, the issue we're talking about, I'm not jealous about what Madam Jennifer is earning. If that's what I was in the scale, you understand? If that was the scale And that was the advert. But there was a process which was ongoing. Because under the law, you can do an hand of someone. But if that's what you have chosen to do, if the process is moving on, someone comes interferes in the process. Now they start telling the person has all the powers. You understand? What the investigation which they want us to stop and do in the camera is that there was a process. What I picked what was in their plan. Because it was in the Uganda Airlines budget that they would recruit a CEO. That the salary scale, they planned how they would do an advert and pick the best person. Who knows that the failure of the airline is because the person who was not best suited for the job, maybe is the one occupying the office. You understand? Yeah. So for you to say that nobody should even inquire about this matter is a different matter. But I agree with the speakers to the extent of making comments, people involved in the investigation. Because I used to be a chair also, but that's a very different matter to handle by the chairman. There's someone who will be walking maybe 1 hour into the investigation. He listens to one thing before they conclude the hearing. He's addressing the media outside how these people are thieves, how we need to deal with them. You understand? The members. You understand? We kept on telling members that I think we should need to have a spokesperson of the committee. And that regard maybe would be the chairperson. Because he has sat into the meeting, or someone elected by the chairman, and has listened to the matter, and even as you speak, because you're going to pronounce yourself on this person, on the matter. So for you to listen in for 5 minutes, then you address the media, this one is a thief. You understand? What if after the explanation, you really find that there was no wrongdoing on that person? When you have pronounced him or a thief, what do you do? So my only point of agreement with the speaker and the deputy speaker is to the extent that they need to guide the chairman or to guide their members. That you see, you have a quasi-judicial function. You're exercising. Then you must remain within the confines of fair hearing. Because if I also walked in the committee and you insulted me how I'm a thief, then you ask me whether I'm a thief, I will not answer.
Because you already
I would go to court and say this biased. You understand? They cannot be judged in their own cases. Either set up another committee to deal with this matter, or I will not appear in this matter in any case. Because in any case, by the way, once Parliament has had this investigation and produced a report, it's adopted by the entire House. And once adopted by the entire House, government must come up with a treasury memorandum, which is the action taken on these recommendations. Even the recommendation we made when we were still in Parliament, they never acted on them. So even in this one, if at all they mean well, they would wait for a report, then go and then not take any action. There's a time, because there's a time when they would say this second officer do ABC, and they did nothing.
And they didn't. Thank you, Honourable Mwiru, for that very articulate background to these issues. I'm going to ask you, Charity, to weigh in also your views on the COSASE proceedings and the arguments that the open proceedings and bad press are hurting a very sensitive and young Uganda airline industry.
I have enjoyed listening to the Honourable Paul.
I could tell.
The reason I have enjoyed listening to him is he contextualized it in law. And you see, Parliament does not exist in an abyss. It is premised on Article 79. And he has told you very well where they draw their power from. It is from the citizen of Uganda. And so the Parliament is accountable, therefore, to the citizen of Uganda before anybody else. That they will hold power on behalf of the people of Uganda. And so the media, on the other hand, plays the role of transformation and putting information out for the public to decide. And so you cannot block them at that point and say, you know, we are holding this session in camera because this institution, for it's unique, it's going to cost, it's delicate, the way we handle it. We know about businesses and we know that we want a good airline. But it is premised on the Auditor General's report. And the Honourable Paul Mwiru has told you the Auditor General has a place. He's premised in the law, in the Constitution. And he has a mandate. I like the point at which he ends, when he says, the question of fair hearing. How do you delicately balance that? And I think that the Constitution at that point let us off the hook. Why? Because the Constitution gave too much power to the presidency. They allowed him the powers of appointing. And in those powers there, he sometimes has places he interferes with the whole process. And yet we want due process, due diligence.
Does the Constitution give him the power to interfere, or?
It gives him the power to appoint. Now, because he appointed when there was a process that was ongoing to recruit, a process that had been given to Price Waterhouse. Now, that process with people applications ongoing, then he appoints someone even before the process could start.
Hold on, Judge.
Yes.
The law can't give the president the power to appoint and also recruiting. I don't think it can do both. That there should be
it gives him power to appoint.
To appoint the airline CEO.
To appoint, it gives him power to appoint people into statutory positions and corporations. It gives him that power. He at his discretion. That is why you see our Constitution says he should only have 21 MPs. 21 ministers. But that clause within the Constitution that allows him to appoint, that one that according to his discretion, he can go ahead to appoint whoever is a deputy. He overblows it to us having 89 ministers. And it is the same power that he's using now to appoint.
I think it was amended to increase the number. Recently.
Whether he increases
it is by resolution, they said by parliamentary resolution, you can extend the number.
So you see?
You understand? Just the way she's saying. You see, the president, once the process was for him.
Yes.
Because after they had chosen who is the CEO, they would send to him for appoint. So my friend to come and say, please give me this one.
So they would, the process was to nominate for him.
Yes, to appoint.
Okay. You can.
We proceed, but thank you for the clarity. So I think that one of the things we need to do is to streamline the president's powers such that they are also known that this is what the president can do according to the Constitution. Even in terms of the statutory bodies and his appointing for statutory bodies, so that he sticks within the confines of what he can do. And then the committees, as we are seeing them doing, and I like the fact that the Honourable Paul Mwiru has said this is not an issue of Joel Senyonyi. COSASE was there before Joel came. And COSASE has done this work for the Ugandan citizen. They are supposed to oversee. Their oversight role is what they are playing right now. So you cannot tell Parliament, you cannot appropriate money when one of their roles is to appropriate. Now, this time they are playing their role of oversight, pushing for accountability. So you cannot, even if you are the speaker, you are there on behalf of the people of Uganda. And the oath that you took was for what? To serve the people of Uganda. So you contradict yourself when you say, now you cannot let the people know what you're investigating. So I agree 100%. The committees should be open for public scrutiny. That point is made. 2, that the document which COSASE is analyzing, no matter how sensitive it is to our airline and the money that the Auditor General is saying has been lost over a period of 3 years. And you see, the Auditor General, when he finds these issues and points them for us to see, he is saying, I want you to fix the issue so that we don't continue having the same problem. So what is COSASE doing? COSASE is assessing the issue to see if we can purge the gaps. Any interference in that process means we are saying we want to continue unabated even if the Auditor General has pronounced himself. So we want to continue losing 500 billion every 3 years, okay? We have no problem with that because it is a sensitive airline, it is a baby airline, we must keep it going, which is not, it is not a plausible argument to make. So I I think it is correct to let Joel Senyonyi and the team assess the report as the Attorney General has put it out and question the people that are supposed to answer. When Mulea came onto that committee, Mulea is the former CEO.
Yeah.
He told them one of the things he found a problem when he was CEO was that they flaunted all procurement procedures. Every time there was a procurement, it did not follow the correct procedure. And it is written also in the Auditor General's report. It is in tandem with the Auditor General's report. So he's telling us that, look, assess the way procurements are done in this airline for us not to have leakages. Unless we are saying as a country, we are not bothered about leakages in our enterprises. Yes, we hear the story about we want the airline to grow, we want to be a powerful force on the region, and we want it to fly, we want it to make money for us. But can we follow the correct procedure?
Okay.
Kenya Airways, for some time, kept their bad story out of the media. They kept their bad story under wraps. And Kenya Airways collapsed. Government had to put money into Kenya Airways like 3-4 times to cause Kenya Airways to come back on top. Do we have that kind of money in our consolidated fund to keep subsidizing the work of Uganda Airlines? You know that Uganda Airlines has ever collapsed. We had Air Uganda, it went down. Then we came back now with this airline that we have right now. So if we have airlines that have collapsed before, are there lessons we have picked?
Thank you, Charity. Jeff.
Interesting.
As someone who is very familiar with the Parliament, these maneuvers to stop the public from following proceedings have not started now. I think in the last Parliament, towards the age limit, during the age limit, when they say broadcasting the proceedings of Parliament was, they tried to stop it that time. How does this affect, why in the first place, why do you think there's that need to stop the public from following what's going on? But how also does it affect the work of Parliament or even the sensitization of Ugandans?
Thanks, Agatha and colleagues before. My own take is that the battle we see being highlighted by what Joel Sonyon is doing for COSASE is a much bigger battle between institutions and majorly between the presidency and all other institutions that should really be independent in the execution of their job. So it's basically that, and we see perhaps, I think the president prefers that all other autonomous bodies, the three arms of government, should be subjugated to his power. Because I think I heard in the cabinet meeting after the exposure, he said, why are they harassing this young innocent girl? Why don't they come for me who appointed
her?
So you can see where the president comes from in terms of how he perceives his power and how he would, to what extent, let other institutions work. So it's basically that. It's impunity, it's feeling all too powerful. I think previously has also been heard saying, I'm the most powerful person in this country. If you really want to get anything moving, seek ye first.
My approval.
Yes, so for me it is that. But back to, I think if there is any institution that still works in this country, it's the Auditor General's office. If there is any institution, because you can see COSASE gets information and all other accountability committees get information from the Auditor General's report. And then it is within their mandate to actually act on those reports. Now, if the recommendations, and by the way, if you also look at the constitution of these accountability committees, I think Honourable Mwiru, you bear me witness, a number of them are actually dominated by the ruling party.
All of them.
Because of the numbers.
Because of the numbers. So it's not a political issue. You could not say, no, this is opposition now.
Creating a story.
Creating a story or witch hunting. the ruling party or people who are perceived to be associated with the ruling party. I think for me, it's impunity from the start, the lack of the recognition that when institutions work independently, they actually make a strong government. However, I think I even sympathized, or did I even empathize with Honourable Katumba Wamala. You saw how he was saying, for me, I did what I was ordered to do. I could not say no. He was trying to jump out of the mistakes that he was saying, you know what, for me I only did what I had to do. But ideally he was actually saying, even when the president did the wrong thing, I had no way of stopping him.
Okay.
So it goes back to what Charity talked about, and Honourable Mwiru, and I think yourself, about the excessive power of Parliament, of the presidency. Is there, for example, an opportunity? Because he appoints, for example, he appoints almost everyone that would work, whether it's in direct cabinet or even statutory bodies. Is there a possibility? Because at least for the appointments committee in Parliament, it vets, even when you think they just go through the motions. If the president has appointed, it's very difficult. I don't know.
That's what I was going to say. That
apart from
even the people he doesn't appoint.
Nobody, even the one on
Like,
I think Seya also. Seya was dropped.
Seya, he wasn't interested in Seya.
Yeah, could we have?
But he appointed.
The statutory
because he knew
bodies
Parliament
also go through.
Wouldn't protect him there.
Could we have the heads of these statutory bodies also go through
that
the appointments committee? I think for me it plays a very big role.
Okay.
That's where they would have seen all these things. By that I do not doubt the experience
of Jennifer Bamtwe.
of Jennifer's incapacity to run the airline. I'm only at variance on how she was recruited.
Okay. The due process.
So now maybe let me ask you a question.
Yes.
So do you doubt the capacity of the other 41 applied?
No, what I'm saying.
No, what I'm saying. Do you doubt the capacity of the other 41?
I also don't. But what I'm saying is that
we don't know them.
But even what I'm saying, when I say I do not, when I say
he's saying that his problem is not
the process.
Is not, yeah.
Yes.
How she was appointed. There could have been other people who would have competed, but because the president says, you know what, this is my, perhaps even maybe a cadre or stuff like that.
Oh, it doesn't
give her a
cadre.
job. Give her a job,
okay,
and we'll see what will happen. So for me, that's where the problem is.
Honourable Mwiru wants.
For me, I want us actually as panelists,
yes,
to really to deal with one issue. You understand? I even doubt, you see, whether the president, if the constitution says the president appoints, I'll give an example of the Judicial Service Commission. What he has been doing actually is, even to me, in my view, illegal. You see, like it has been tested in Kenya. In Kenya, the president's role is ceremonial because the court have pronounced themselves on it. But for him to say that you had an interview, you had 10 people, you give me the entire list I choose for myself, because that has been abused.
Yeah.
The best have always been left out because maybe they have been dispensing justice as per the constitution, and when they are looking for cadres, they say they pick was number 6. Then you leave number 1.
Yeah.
Then you appoint. The same applies. I don't think that's what the law provides. But because where will you go now?
The law
court?
is interpreted to
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, the law is interpreted to suit. That's the
then
thing.
too, like in this issue where they're saying the president is supposed to appoint those people. They don't just appoint. There was a process which was going on. And at the end of the process, they were supposed to seek now the guidance.
Okay.
If the president wanted, he would have even back at the door called the minister and say, as the process goes on, if this lady carries on up to maybe the best thing for me I'm supposed to choose, maybe we get that one. But I don't think the law allows him to when there's a process to say, I've appointed this one. It is different from a minister.
Yeah,
because a minister, he can come and say, I've appointed the charity, and we shall not question it.
Yeah.
You understand? Because among the 40 now, call it 41. What guided him to pick one and then leave the other?
I agree that the
that's why we have a problem
with
with
excessive power. With excessive power, the president is bound to abuse the law, and perhaps maybe that's why we need to ask ourselves: are presidential directives based in law? And if they are, at what point do we say, you know, if the president has taken the wrong decision, where do we correct it? Do we wait until he's out of power?
I actually want to weigh in. It's still even in that, and the Honourable Paul Mwiru is my senior on this one. But I know that during COVID, he came up with rules. He told us to stay in the house without a legal instrument. The Constitution seems to give him some power, some leverage, which we cannot contain, and which is not streamlined too well. And for me, I think that that's where the problems for our administrative framework is. Because when you look at the question of equity and the question of fair hearing, even the Forte should now come out to ask for a tribunal for fair hearing. The Forte should say, no, I also applied for this job, and I think I was qualified for this job, and I don't understand the criteria, and nobody has written back to me to say, look, you did not qualify because of X, Y, and Z. So they should come out to demand for that in proper public administration. That is what should be happening. But what we have seen is that our institutions have been run down. And our constitution does not allow us to move the way Montesquieu looked at the question of separation of powers. And for me, that was the beginning of
blaming the constitution. We should blame the person who is
that is the beginning of the
raping and molesting.
So if we had the distinction as clear as that gentleman had thought about it, Professor, it would be very simple.
When I hosted the Honourable Augustine Ruzindana here recently, he told me how in CA that the Parliament being the first institution provided for in the among the three, that it was not a mistake, it was deliberate, because Parliament is more powerful than the other two. Now, a constitution like that shows you that it has no problem. The people implementing it or interpreting it in a way that suits their interests have the problem. I don't know, because I have had other people like Betty Kamya before she crossed over. Also, her problem was that the problem is the Constitution speaks about the president. She would count the times in the Constitution. Do you think that's the problem?
Actually, for me, I don't think. Actually, for instance, what the public is saying, they are providing counsel to government and to the president for the better running of the airline. You understand? Because what all we are saying, that there must be fairness. For instance, how would someone who is deep, who is in Jinja, in Warukuva, assuming he had the better qualification, how would he catch the president's eye? Because the people are asking, how did the president arrive at Jennifer? You understand? Should someone in Jinja wait? But maybe on one day the president think about to me, all other people will be brought out by a process. This is what we are saying.
But
for me, the question I don't know Jennifer. I don't have any problem with her. And I don't even know, I don't have a problem if she looks for that man anyway. Because now, just like me, if you wanted to give me a job, I would say I can only earn it when it is in this amount of money. If you are agreeable, you give me. If you're not, then you get another person. You understand? But that fairness, and these are not things which we would even be debating. We must have surpassed those levels now.
By now.
So the question, I think, for me, that I put previously, to what extent can we check the powers of the president as in terms of presidential directives? Because many public servants have come up to say, you know what, I was implementing the presidential
actually himself.
Yes.
When we met him, or when we were doing the Dura investigation, he suggested that we need to create an act of parliament called the Presidential Directive Act, to the extent that his directives are not misunderstood, because he wrote those directives where they paid out money to Dura, which were not supposed to be paid out. You understand? Then he challenged us that if these civil servants don't have a problem, how come that I've never issued these directives where there is no money and they have never been executed? But where they are benefiting, they were first to execute. So he was himself saying.
So he also dispensed.
Actually, was saying we actually need a law to define the compliance of his directives. Which directive is directorate?
But for me, I think let's
which directive
operationalize.
you understand?
It would help.
Is advisory? Which one is? That's what he was saying.
That answers Jeff's question.
Yes, that
They are not actually based in law. They can't override the law. I don't think
No,
my
you
little
see-
knowledge of the law, the directive can't override a written law that is already there.
Yeah, because
Especially the Constitution.
I think that for the Judicial Service Commission, because we have the precedent of Gerard Kafure Kakarhanga, that precedent helped them in terms of saying you cannot reappoint Benjamin Odoke.
What? Okay.
Okay? So court came out and pronounced itself and said no, when it comes to the independence of the judiciary. This is what the law envisages. And this is how the institutions should work in terms of independence for each of the three arms of government. But for administrative law, we have not seen a lot of precedents that go against what the president has appointed, okay, or selected in this manner.
yes.
What we need now is litigation in this direction. We need more litigation in this direction such that we are premising ourselves on the law and say, look, this was decided in this case. This is what the law is saying. So even in this case, if the worst comes to the worst and COSASE can't resolve this issue, let us take it to court.
Of course, COSASE can't resolve this.
You see,
Let us take it to court.
what Charity is saying, this situation had existed in Kenya.
Yes.
That whenever people apply, the law says that you will be appointed by the president on the recommendation of the Judicial Service Commission.
Right.
So the debate asked that, can the president say, I've sent Charity, put him on the list for my appointment? Because it had started. And you see, the court said, no. Because the executive is represented. Because you see, the way we look at the composition of the Judicial Service Commission, it has someone from the private sector, it has someone from the judiciary, all sectors are represented. So the Attorney General represents the government.
Yes.
On that commission, meaning that by the time they do a scrutiny and they say Charity is number 1, Jeff 2, Agatha 3, Mwiru 4, in this order, they are supposed, actually what they used to do before, they would send the person they want to be appointed. You understand? If they did an interview and on those ranking, they would say Charity is the best person, please appoint him or her Chief Justice. I think the president said that, no, why are you limiting me?
With one
Give me whoever sat the interview so that I choose myself.
So what was the purpose of the interviews in the first place?
That is it now.
So we're dealing with
So
the
in
issue
Kenya,
of the power.
they went to court and it was actually decided that the president is already ceremony.
Correct. And that is where we need
So the
to
president-
go.
Here, Charity,
That is where we
the
need to
problem
go.
with an issue like Pamturaki now, there's no Judicial Service Commission or its equivalent provided for in the law
Correct.
to do that, which is, I think, what creates the lacuna here.
No,
Uh-huh.
there was that committee which was conducting the interview.
It was
I thought
Price
they were-
Waterhouse.
Yes.
The Price Waterhouse is
Was in that
it was just hired by the airline
airline to choose the
to
best.
recruit. Okay, but it's not
So he
premised
was
in the
bound
law. They
to-
could choose any other firm to do recruitment. So it's not premised in the law. And for me, the point which I like the way Agatha has now finally framed it, I want us to have precedent of where now the president knows that, okay, if I ever have to interfere in a due process like he has done, because we didn't see due process in this. And the whole problem with the COSASE and the committee and the discussion around Jennifer, I didn't want to bring her name up. Around her,
Because
is
it's
the
not
whole
about
question.
her, really.
Yeah, it's not about her. The whole question around it is
The process.
due process.
Let me ask one last question to Honourable Mwiru of this session, because I didn't want us to go into the process. I wanted us to restrict ourselves to the procedure in Parliament and how they can interfere in it. There's this question that has been asked by many of so what. Yusuf Serunkuma wrote an article saying, no, thank you, Joel Senyonyi, but no thank you. Because, and the so what comes from what you said about the Treasury memoranda, which is never tabled, these issues are not implemented. So there's a view that MPs are basically wasting their time. Some even say playing to the gallery, because at the end of the day, nothing will happen. What do you say about that? And how is an MP supposed to respond to that? Do they leave their jobs, what they're supposed to do because they know it is not implemented? How can we help MPs or maybe even the public to explain that sort of situation?
For me, I think, of course, most of the people speak out of ignorance.
Yeah.
You understand, and that's why they think that Parliament is wasting time. Let me give you an example. There are committee reports which we passed and were adopted by the entire House.
Yeah.
And the cabinet sat on them, I've never acted them even up to now. Involving misappropriation of public resources. You mean if their protector left the power, they would be aligned in court? They will. You understand? So for me, for Parliament to sit and come up with the reports adopted by the House and is kept, it's not acted on. To me, it's a wastage of time. Actually, it is work simplified. If I was their advisor, they would align themselves in the court, try themselves, caution themselves. You understand? So by the time a new government comes up and want to charge them, they'll say double jeopardy. You understand? We already tried and we're cautioned, so you cannot actually take us to court again.
Because the new government
But
will
they have
be
not
tough.
they have not evidence on the record. They have not acted on it. They just lying in the military might that they are in charge. Because if they took over government, the first thing I would ask for those reports. I said there was this investigation, you appeared, this was the position. Did the government act?
Jeff says you
So
are the
please
people
don't,
that...
Paul, you use the word
That's
if carefully. You don't say when.
Yes.
and perhaps that is informed by
No,
where
but
we're
this is
coming
very
from.
good. It's really,
The fact
really
is-
good.
The fact that we have one government.
The fact that it's an if, they think it will be
Instead
here
of
forever.
when, that perhaps this power is embedded in the fact that perhaps this is something that stays for a lifetime. And that the time for accountability is perhaps either when you're dead or
You leave power.
or because you see, until you have a sense of accountability from the perspective of other institutions, then you can continue working the way you work. Continuously, because then there will be no consequences. I think this is what informs the decisions that the president makes.
Okay.
Yes, and then maybe to give you the direct answer.
Yeah.
You see, our people forget one thing. Like if today the speaker gave a declaration, don't touch those people. People follow Parliament when it is doing something.
Yeah.
You understand? That's why even on accountability committees, we started with them. People moved away from seeing you people entertaining witnesses to who is in the prison and how much has been recovered. You understand? That's why whenever we are carrying committees, I was telling members that if we are to be relevant to the public has moved away from the TV shows. They want to know who is in the prison and how much has been recovered.
But that's not your responsibility as a Parliament.
No,
I mean, you have no
as a
power
committee,
over
and by that one,
yeah.
that means that once I have a report which details these matters, to me, I will have done my part.
There's some institutions.
Because I know I will have done. That's what I told you. There's how to call an audit cycle.
Yeah.
It ends with the Treasury Memorandum.
Honourable Mwiru,
That just looks at it.
what informs those sentiments I was telling you about is that after you do your part as Parliament, the other institutions do not carry them to hold these people accountable. So that's why these people are saying it's wasted.
So what? No, actually, they miss a point because today, assuming today we go to Parliament to be more certain for Jeff. Like if I was in charge, I wouldn't allow to witch hunt people. Because I know the anger running into the minds of our people and the hearts.
Right.
They should get anybody who is around. But I've interfaced with the ministers who don't approve what is taking place in terms of corruption, in terms of human rights violations. But they're in NRM. So if I took government today, I would wish a fair process.
And
you understand?
have that
to determine whether I put his hand
yeah.
in the state coffers.
I see.
And I will get you from where the money was. If there have been no violations, we shall look for those instances. It's not right that there's going to be lawlessness. That if there was change of government, you just start suspecting. It was Jeff hours off for those people. Get him. You can't also operate in that way.
Yeah.
So the people who are losing heart, but also appreciate where they are coming from. That every financial year, over $5 million is lost. Then you wait for another year, you go through the same cycle. The same story.
And the Parliament seems to be going through the motions.
When will this end?
Yeah.
I think that is their question.
Yeah, that's the frustration.
I understand where they are coming from, but so that it is in vain. We have where to start from.
Thank you, Honourable. So whoever is listening knows that another government will have a record to start from. Let's take a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll continue with the discussion and wrap up the two other subjects we want to touch on. We'll be right back.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back from that short break. Thank you for staying with us. I am still with the Honourable Paul Mwiru of the Alliance for National Transformation, Charity Ahimbisibwe from the Electoral Laws Institute, and Jeff Wadulo from CSBAG. I don't know why I struggle with that name. We were discussing the issue of COSASE, but now I want us to go into the rationalization and merger that government seems to have struggled with for so many years, because I think when you look back, this started in 2017. Now, there was a report by the Ad hoc Committee of Parliament chaired by Nathan Byanyima, which was looking at the advantages, cost-benefit analysis, and whatever the problem. And in that report, they looked at many of the cabinet papers on it and the president's concern. And the concern was that the mushrooming agencies are too many and were not based, there was no legal framework for them. The other one was the burden to the treasury. One wonders how they have taken, they took so long to realize that. But then the other day, in Kololo, the president brought it up and it hit the stalemate again. I'm going to start with you, the lawyers. These agencies have, most of them, acts that establish them. What should come before the other? Isn't it, and like, is it okay for them to first merge them? Because I've seen the report saying we've come up with 80 out of the 157 to remain and the others to be merged. How is this supposed to happen in a manner that will not really create that stalemate that we are seeing? Should you start with repealing the laws that establish them? How does it happen, Paul Mwiru?
First, you see, unfortunately, I look at things in a broad manner. You see, leadership is supposed to determine the direction the country takes. When the president when President Museveni became president here, or during that time, my sister here, Charity, told you that cabinet was of 21.
Yeah.
And the constitution still insists.
You understand? So what did they do? Because everybody wanted to fit into that treasure type of business, they kept on expanding. To expand the cabinet for their own benefit. As if that was not enough. Remember when we were the RDCs, we started with just an RDC in a district. Because the political class kept on growing. Now they have to think of the deputy RDC. I don't know that they've got the assistant RDCs, I don't know. Whether they are there. There's those who sit at the center where the assistant RDCs. Yeah. Just as a way of creating employment for people. As if that was not enough, now we moved to the ambassadors. We used to have an ambassador who was a career diplomat and who would implement the charter. You understand? Properly, the way the thing is supposed to be. When the political class kept on growing, people who don't go through election, now they start with a deputy ambassador. You understand? So they kept on, they've been growing these
Then
things.
presidential advisor.
Just from, I am coming, then from there, now they want presidential advisor. This is of creating people employment. Now, after there now, we started on commissions and total enterprise. When I want to go through in the parliament, when you were there, you see, you see when you are making these laws, when they started creating authorities. So one time I was opposing one authority on the basis of expanding the public administration. Then someone wrote me a note that, Honourable, you see today you are here and you're not here permanently. Tomorrow you can be out when you need that slot. That slot to be there. So they started creating them. That's actually, if you look at the hand of most of these groups of enterprise and these bodies, most of the members, including bodies, the members now, largely they are politicians, former ministers, former MPs, to the extent that even someone was one minister was a minister in charge of a ministry. Then he had to come and become a body member. You know, that reverse thinking. At times, you see, I'm sorry if I'm using a derogatory language, but you see, it goes one has the people you are supervising. Now it's like, it is funny, but it was all about creating employment. For me, I'm happy that the government has seen it is not sustainable. Because some of their functions, actually, they're almost like there was a, because they're intertwined. And maybe as I conclude, we are the just law and order sector. When you're in public accounts committee forms part of the accountability sector. So we kept on telling them, now we have the IGG, we have the SID, we have the DPP, we have what? Why don't you create synergies? The way it was done now in the East African community, because there's what we call the EAPAC, East African Public Accounts Committee. They were trying to bring all those entities together like a one-stop center. To the extent that even there's order that if the OSASE is investigating a matter, IG doesn't go for the same matter. There was a lot of duplicity to the extent that someone, you see that someone are not working. First there's audit by Auditor General, an audit is, which takes like a week or two. As they're finishing the audit, police say they need the same file for an investigation. As the IGG rights. And you see, there's just duplicity of just of the same. So we're wondering that can't we understand this animal called accountability? We draw it right, we know someone deals with the head, another one with the chest. You understand? Then the stomach and then the legs. So you know this the sector is. So there's a smooth way of dealing with this matter. The people have started fighting for their mandate. They do the constitution. Our mandate. I said, but by the time the constitution was made, you understand, now it has been tested that we can do better and improve if we did that. Because what am I asking the accountability sector? That the money which comes in to fight graft, it's a very big budget. The extent if it's put to the use of people, so it's been worth the way it is being spent. Then people are saying, I think for you are doing a lot of politics. You know, if they fail to understand things scientifically, they either resort to position which all black men, I doubt this is politics. But that's how the actual. Or
that you are eating, you're fighting for someone.
That's what people are talking. But now, to answer your question directly,
yes,
of course, that duplicity they have realized, and even these bodies, some even more paid than people are doing the work in this sector. And first, you don't know who does what. I'll give an example. We have been dealing with. There are sectors where you are seeing that actually there's like the people are fighting for mandate. You understand? Then you want to say there's an interview. There is UCC. There is what someone said, but you see, there's a ministry of ICT. Why don't you put them together? And to measure these people, we create departments and there's have a top management meeting. People contribute to see that there is. These are things which it may even also reverse. They must have planned it. They're going to be appointing people. Then at the end of the day, now they bring that as debate. When we even talk about it.
Exactly.
But there's no would have reached that level. Because today people are in government, most of them are supposed to be intelligent people, but because of the survival mode they went in, they can't say anything. Maybe now you understand? So for me, the only challenge where we shall be, I think constitutionally, my sister here will help me if I've forgotten, I think you can't vary someone's salary.
No, you can't.
Emolument to his disadvantage.
You can't.
You understand? Now the question is going to be, if
they won't even be getting any salary because they will lose. Most of them will lose jobs.
You see, under the law, because the first option is to merge. Not all people are this, but there are the entities where these are government workers. That if you are merging them, the issue of you must rationalize the salary scale.
Right.
Because if you bring me in and the charity is earning 30 million and I'm here earning 10, doing charity reporting to me.
Yes.
I've also seen another matter because then I lost the confidence in our court here. I've seen the president appointing people, appointing an RDC and say you appointed the former MP, you go with your salary and allowances. They appoint you an ambassador, go with your salary and allowance in the statutory commission and the body. I think the charity
that
is
irregular.
It is irregular, but it is happening.
Because
I met, that's what my brother said, we need to go slow. Jeff, I saw a colleague, former MP was appointed RDC, other planning 2 million, they say you go with your salary and emolument. So the man is earning like an MP, but he's an RDC. Another the body member, they say, you have seen those letters.
I know. They say, your
salary and so say, what is salary? After referring to the MP, you have failed, you have been cheated. I have no salary now. So if you appointed me today, and say you are appointed on this board, but you go with your salary and emoluments. These salaries, for instance, emoluments, they were calculated on mileage. When I was in NMP, there was a basic salary of 11, which is taxed, and I get 6.2 million. That's the salary. You understand? So for each of the emoluments, which are actually basing on narcotic measures if you're in the islands, but don't do things of the new normal. You see whether you are fitting in, whether there is a situation which you can't even understand. Sometimes some of us who know, we feel very bad. Like I looked at an appointment. As you appointed an ambassador, go with your salary. Another ambassador earning 15 million, this man is earning almost 50 million. Then I was explained to that when the president appointed him ambassador, but he asked him to be going to the constituency to mobilize for the party. So it was no one, that's not what we can't do it like this.
Very, very inconsistent.
Honourable Mwiru talks about salary disparities and duplication. Whenever I would talk about duplication, I would have in mind the energy sector. Ministry of Energy, UEDCA, UETCA, UEGCA, ERA, REA. Now, all those, like he's saying, you'll find CEO, the CEO is earning 50 million. ERA, I've talked about it, the regulator. The CEO earning 50 million. No, you add that there's women also. We hire, we have a UEDCA, but we hire another company to distribute. There's ESCOM, you know.
But what does ESCOM do? Let me
generate. It's the one which is in charge of generating.
But we have UEGCA generation. We have Uganda electricity generation.
Just like you have UEDCA, but umeme with those terms and conditions, whatever. But how will the salary disparities? Because they mention it in the report. One of the justification for this merging. So now, how is that going to be resolved? You're going to get all directors of ministries and put them at 50 million?
One thing government said was that, and I was listening to the MPs, of course, most of them are a disappointment because they don't understand the issues at stake. They say we have carefully reviewed this issue. It's a simple process. We are just going to merge and the end of the story. I had the youth MP for Eastern saying the same thing. And I thought that was below the belt. One, the salaries committee we've been talking about to harmonize salaries should now be instituted. We've said this thing to the president over and over, especially when it comes to members of parliament increasing their emoluments without people assessing how this money is extrapolating because it is taxpayers' money. Secondly, when Jennifer Musisi was appointed and given 48 million, it became a big issue. Now it became Jennifer.
Jennifer is a good name.
Jennifer is a good name, yes. Thank you.
We should call our children.
Now it has become Jennifer Bamturaj, and it is 87 million, and then it has become a big issue. And then there will be somebody else who will come and to be the guy, actually, the one of Zimbabwe, who was the he was earning 106 million.
126.
126? It's even higher than the one I thought. So 126 million. That was his take home per month.
I saw your friend Nora Wiraga.
Yes, Nora.
Saying that, is it because this one is a woman? You know, we can take debate in whatever.
Gender
gender. Yes.
And I think that is how the NRM has managed to govern us over a long period of time, because we know how to debate in different dimensions. But I think we need to also keep focusing on What does the law say? What does the Constitution say? What is provided for? Because you cannot do public administration without premising it on the framework. So what did the framework envisage? And your start point, I think, is what I want to agree with. Before these mergers are done, can we get every statutory body that was established by law? Look at that law and look at the law which the ministries are working with, because the Ministry of Energy also has an instrument it works with. We look at the instrument of UEGCL and put it in tandem with the ones that we are merging. And after we have aligned the law, meanwhile, the Salaries Committee is also assessing the issues around the salaries and harmonizing them. Because what is going to happen is they're going to drop so many people. They said, one, they're scrapping directors. So they don't care. They're going to give you gratuity. They're going to pay you pension. They're going to find, but they're just scrapping you. They're just saying, Agatha, you were a director in this organization. Now you've lost your job, so you're entitled to this amount of pension. And they pay you off. That because it is the way government is structured, that government remains with one clause. You see, like in our employment acts, they normally say your employer retains the right to dismiss or retain you in the company. So they have that clause in the Public Service Act that allows for government to choose whether they are retaining you, sending you back to a district, or they are getting rid of you to give you gratuity. And it is the one clause.
To deal with redundancy.
Yes, it is the one clause that they are largely going to work with. But even when you're going to work with this one clause, there is the question of equity. And we're going to see a lot of cases going to court. How the courts will behave, even if we know they already in pockets and everything, court should decide the case based on the evidence that is produced. So we're going to see a lot of litigation happening around these issues. We can only stop that litigation if we go through this process a bit carefully. So let's harmonize the laws. There are some of these entities which for me I think were useless, and I'm happy that government is finally getting rid of them, like NEMA and NFA. Tell me the differences between these two bodies, so and if the overlapping role that they play has not really
both of them can go Minister of Water and Environment.
Saddled us as taxpayers, you know. We have suffered with these two entities, but have they even protected our environment? What are the dividends that we are seeing from NEMA and NFA? Nothing. So for me, that helps me. Look at the NGO sector. We report to 7 regulators. KCCA, NGO Bureau, URSB, who else? A Financial Intelligence Authority. Give me another. There are about 7 regulators. You're just one NGO, but when it comes to filing returns, you are filing. You are a NGO Bureau. You've gone to URSB. You're filing returns to all these people. For what? It is the PISO and the DISO.
And the district NGO.
Yes, and the sub-county. And what is that? So if you've decided to streamline, fine, this is where we're going to put our returns. And for me, if I had to give government advice, URSB would not go down, although it is one of those that has been listed, because they're making money for government. Also, these marriages and certificates, people pay for them. These people are making money. And the money will be made through another money-making entities will stick. Yeah, URSB has also been very efficient. So for me, because of their efficiency aspect, effectiveness, and the way they've handled business, it would be better.
Let's finish up this. Jeff, one of the issues the committee has, the committee that probed into this, is that they did not understand the criteria that was used by government, the cabinet, on what agency to retain, as and this is what you're saying about URSB, because they also talked about certain agencies, which URSB is among, saying this should stay. So they were asking what was the criteria in choosing what agents should remain, what agents should be merged, or what agents should be done away with. And we've had these stories. They started with UNRA, that some people were fighting Kajunan. That's why they wanted UNRA merged.
chances are, by the way, that we'll be stuck with this. Why?
Yeah.
Because of the way it came up. You know, when the Minister Mwiru came to Parliament with that cabinet decision, one of the first challenges he was asked was, government spent 15 years creating these agencies. First of all, actually coming to us, ask us to actually create them. Now, all of a sudden, they have noticed that this whole thing has become, you know, it's like a quasi-government structure. They don't know what to do with it, stuck with it, and they're now throwing it back to Parliament. But the other thing was, if you created institutions based on law, how would you then again decide, you know, you're merging without actually referring to the law? But then also, if you looked at, I think Honourable Mwiru said it very well. You see, if you looked at all the people who are heading these institutions, these agencies, just do a quick survey. Basically, these are political appointments. Even if there are people who are either technocrats, they are actually cadre appointments. So you would have a problem, even the way they negotiate a salary, because if there is a public service commission, how is it possible that you can have parastatals, statutory agencies and other commissions who earn much more than the mainstream public service, but then you have a public service supervising those agencies? How do they even agree on a salary? Because I remember, I think the last report that was done by the Equal Opportunities Commission, which brought out all these disparities. That report was showed. I think that's where the Bank of Uganda, Bank of Uganda governor at that time, I think, was the highest, with about 53 million. But that was brought, I mean, it was thrown back into the fray. What I'm seeing is that, well, this is like some kind of second or third phase of retrenchment. They want to see how to get rid of some people.
Okay.
Now, for those who will survive, they will be redeployed. Perhaps maybe the politics has to wait for a number of deployments. I've seen some who have left mainstream, statutory, whatever, and are now in Parliament or in mainstream politics. The way I see it is because the purpose for which those statutory agencies were created was not necessarily because they wanted to build efficiency in government. And the truth has come out.
As for the politics.
The truth has come out. Now, government has to deal with it politically. I don't think it's going to be technical.
Okay. Honourable Mwiru, last question on that. What role should Parliament play at this stage in trying to rationalize, as they say? Because Parliament hadn't been brought on board. Actually, this report, this committee comes about through a matter of national importance by so many people worried about people that will be rendered unemployed or something like that. And this committee is instituted by the Speaker. I was surprised to see that the President was bringing them on board. But to have something that maybe we can, because we all agree that they were redundant and duplicating roles in the first place and wasting taxpayers' money. How can we resolve this problem now? What can Parliament do in this equation?
First, of course, I've been watching. It seems to be a new trend. Parliament has committees of Parliament. But you see, under the new normal, there seem to be
so many ad hoc committees.
Ad hoc committees being created. But
to also give her people.
But this is
what
bad.
I'm saying, no, I'm just saying, you see, from the way it says, the person.
Because the committees are created by article.
No, what I'm saying, you see, for me, I'm talking as a layperson.
Oh, a layperson.
Who is now out, but I see the
abnormality.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, I was there and I'm seeing, first, that is the first problem I see. But the second, Parliament would play its role of the legislative role. Because you see, the way we draft laws, there must be cabinet memorandum. You understand? Which might be submitted, giving justification to all this. You understand? And it must go to cabinet, which would state justifications, state the need, and then all this other thing. Then the bill will be prepared. So I don't see why Parliament is diving, wanting to deal with the matter, a policy matter. Parliament doesn't make policies.
Correct.
The policy is the position of cabinet. You see, but you see anything. Parliament can do anything, apart from changing a woman into a man. You understand? But you see, in an era of fishermen and fisherwomen, if you are not one, you look on. But to answer your question straight, Parliament will play an executive role when a bill comes, and they will, if they are interested, they will consult people who are in the know, and will give their views, and then they pronounce themselves on the law. What I don't find palatable, that Parliament can engage into making policy, you understand? Because it's like, the advice of Parliament, even parliamentary resolutions, apart from the advisory to the executive, apart from, in my view, those are rising out of the Appropriation Act, Director General's report. The recommendations out of that, if they are adopted, they should be binding on the government. Because they are rising out of an Appropriation Act where money was given. So they should wait for them to play their role. Because there's no way cabinet will deal with that matter without going to Parliament. Because it involves existence. So these bodies are a creature of statutes. So if they want to either to repeal, they have to go to Parliament. If they have to do what? So I don't see the need of Parliament jumping and even doing it. But I said under the new normal, you can keep on watching many things happen. But as the Conservatives, we shall always...
and if a bill comes up, of course, there will be need for a
public engagement.
A certificate of financial implication for that bill. I'm sure when they peep at it, they'll say, would rather, sometimes a good decision
you understand?
Is the do nothing of
so, just like when we talked about government fleet, because you see, that is a bill which required a certificate of financial implication. We have tried to reduce the fleet and they have not paid attention. But when it's a policy matter, there's nothing much you do, because somebody tried to move a private member's bill. They didn't give a certificate and they didn't want, I think, maybe also to pursue further.
Okay.
But they can wait in their position, they can be attending to other things.
They stay in their line.
Stay in line, they attend to other things and they wait for...
But it's true, the new normal now, the trend is that there's every other day there's a new ad hoc committee where another committee could have done that. There's an ad hoc committee into the COVID funds, yet maybe health would have done it, I don't know. In this case, I don't know which committee would have been the appropriate one for the rationalisation.
This time on the record of Parliament, objecting to those
ad hoc
subcommittee, because you see they would like abuse. First, a vote of no confidence in the main committee of Parliament. You understand? It renders the main committee redundant.
But Honourable, it actually
I
also...
objected to them in the ninth
Legal
Parliament.
only illegal. It talks about what you are saying, duplication of roles. You are trying to resolve duplication,
the Speaker has the powers.
redundancy.
The Speaker has the powers, actually, to create a subcommittee of efficiency running of Parliament. And if in his own view, he's saying this is how she's doing it, as the bystanders, they were saying, now, what about this commission? Do you trust those people? Have they lost it all? Are they incompetent? What is? Have they failed to deliver? You see, because we have not known, because under the parliamentary rules of procedure, when they refer matter to you, you must report within 45 days. So do those people have many matters what have been reported? What should we do to improve these committees?
So the Speaker
but I think in my view, I think we shouldn't be envious. I don't want to take the line of my good friend Ahimbisibwe to judge people. The president said he was looking for some people to do for him some work, and they are doing. I think
for him, they are doing a good work.
You don't know why he appointed them. Maybe it was to kill Parliament. You understand? Maybe to kill cabinet. You see, the president, the politician have they can have a reason. Someone may say that, okay, then to kill this cabinet, this have been disturbing me. When these people have been there, they've been asking questions in the cabinet. So let me put this one, that people don't find the need to attend. You understand? We used to have the Prime Minister's question time. So we used to have when the Honourable was the Prime Minister. So when you'd ask questions, he would answer you. And you'd say the man has answered. You won't even have urge to answer another one.
Yes.
So when they brought in my good friend, Honourable Rugunda, we would ask him, but are you aware that there was maybe a flood? He said, no, I'm not aware. and they would sit and the matter would end there. You understand? So I never asked anything.
Oh my God.
Let's
The current one is even more pragmatic. So we're going to
quickly
deal with it.
go
And then nothing happens.
through PDM. I don't intend to ask Honourable Mwiru any more questions on PDM unless there's a specific question he wants to answer, because we're running out of time. So the Committee on Public Service and Local Government has now 2 reports that they tabled last week about parish development model. The issues that had been raised were there are no seedlings, the schedule for disbursement of funds is not clear. One of the things that the committee talked about that really made me almost laugh or cry was PDM lacking a legal framework.
Yeah.
And this is coming now, at this moment in time. At what point really should Parliament come in? This is the tail end. It's already, money has been appropriated. They appropriated it to themselves, but now you have a committee report talking about it lacking a basis legal framework. What do you say about that, Charity?
But we talked about the legal framework from the start.
Yeah.
And Parliament last year sent the first disbursement of funds, completely ignoring the need for the legal framework. So when they come back and say they now need a legal framework, indeed, like you're saying, it is what we call spire through the intestines, that we are moving in circles where that we have nowhere to go. That is exactly what we have done to ourselves as a country. And I think it is unfortunate. It is sad that now we remember we need a legal framework. It is sad that now they are saying sub-county chiefs whom they were saying should be the in charge have been dropped. Now the money is going directly to the circles. So we have said this about parish development model, that this model is also going to fail, like all other models have failed, because it is being implemented in an ad hoc way. And it has not picked any lessons. We learned nothing, and we forgot what?
Nothing.
That is us.
So Jeff, with all these issues that are surrounding the parish development model now, she talked about parish chiefs. I've seen the committee talk about how they are not in place, even not all of them. Those who are there, there's no capacity, they have no capacity. So how can Parliament really now resolve an issue that is already that?
You know, sometimes the executive comes up with very interesting proposals, runs with them and gets stuck with them, and then comes back to Parliament. I think that the president, during his campaigns, wanted something to appease his people, majorly his support base. And then he was looking out for something that could work in order to give some bit of money to his people. But at the end of it all, I think when they brought in the science of trying to make it work, because the intent was not well thought through, then actually what happens, it's actually like, if you ever try to play football and you have a very weak team with a very strong team, do you know that the weak team can easily beat the strong team because they're just playing randomly. And because this other professional team wants to follow the rules, you'll find that they're actually unable to win that game. So what happens is that because you have a planned program of government, which, by the way, the intent is pillar number 3 or 4 of financial inclusion. Nothing else.
That is 4.
4 of financial inclusion. Ideally, to give people money.
Everybody.
And everyone is waiting. I've just been to the north looking again and following up the PDM. And we found so many things in there. We found the people who are supposed to have the money. Many of them have never got it. Number 2, they've never been trained. Some of them don't know what the PDM is. So, but they know there is some money which is supposed to come. They were told to form
circles.
Circles that have opened up accounts in different banks, Post Bank, DFCU. But they've never seen the money, and their fears are that this could be another failed government program. And number 2, you hear local government personnel are being arrested for stealing millions of the PDM. Then you wonder,
How did they get it?
How did they even get it before it is released? Number 4, government, out of, you saw what Honourable Wadulo was talking of yesterday. Government, number 1, is broke. The 1 trillion that was passed, yes,
He confessed.
the 1 trillion that was passed for the PDM, government doesn't have all that money, so they've tried to phase it out. I think they're trying to break in the 100 million per constituency. They want to bring 25, 50, and then 25 later. But already too little, too late.
Yeah.
Every member of parliament and every citizen saying, you know, what is it for? If, for example, it is based in agriculture and the seasons are coming and going.
Yeah.
So government is going to get stuck with this thing, but they will find, I don't know how much courage they're going to need to run away from it. It will end like most of these other programs where money has been given. And it has not, if it has not been eaten, it has been misused and has not had the necessary impact.
Thank you, Jeff. We are going to close, but parting shots. And I want you, Honourable Mwiru, if you wanted to say anything about the parish development model, to say it as you close, as we are closing.
Well, I saw, first I was looking at the coffee, where they say that they will not give money for coffee seedlings. People should go and get it from the parish, from the PDM. Of course, people have been getting free seedlings.
Yes.
For you to tell them to go and get a loan, you understand, and buy seedlings and go and plant. I saw, yes, whereas they may have had issues of the way the seedlings one had been handled, it was killing the sector. Because the season now has gone, no man has been sent. Even the money is not there at those parishes. But people, it's in 2 phases. People had prepared their gardens, but also those also did in seedlings and also prepared the nursery beds, and they are there. And actually, there's no money they're going to receive in the financial year, which is also going to disrupt their financial flows. But of course, you see, in a gambling mode, because we have seen very many programs of Bonaba Gagawale, Sumanyi Bonaba Seke, there was
That was
Bonaba
there
Some, Sumanyi Bonaba Badi. Those people have been
Operation
many.
with creation.
They have been there, and I don't know at their formulation what they think. When they are talking about the pillars of PDM, you think they are very serious. When it has come to implementation, something else has turned out to be.
That's true. And it was the silver bullet.
So it is really their thing. We can watch them
To get 39% out of poverty.
You see how they get
Getting stuck.
Charity, your parting shots?
My parting shots are, it is sad that every time there is presidential promises, because the president told us when he took power in 2021 that 23 million households would be delivered from poverty annually.
When he retained, not
Yeah.
Okay. When he came back as a new president, from the old president to a new president, for us, that's how we...
For the 8th time.
And we told him, oh, very nice. We clapped our hands, but we said, for us as civil society, we're going to audit whether this actually comes to pass. And this is when the parish development model was also being conceived. And everybody said, let's support this model. This time we have beaten the middlemen, and the middlemen started fighting. And part of the people believe that the middlemen are the ones who have pulled down the parish development model, that they fix themselves somewhere and then get it back up such that they can benefit again. Now, if that is true, it is unfortunate that as a people, citizens, we also kill good processes and never work for the processes. But the way this implementation was being done was also not proper. There was no framework that was raised, and we told them about the pillars and sensitization for the people who are going to benefit from the program. It was being done in a haphazard manner, and it was not followed through. So I think if anything has to work, every money has to be halted right now, and we go back to the drawing board. We start with the trainings again for the people who are supposed to benefit, keep that middleman still out, but ensure that the ones who are going to benefit get the training. We put up the infrastructure correctly, and we get the process right.
Thank you, Charity. Jeff, yes.
I think if this government wants to perform, it has to let systems work.
Yeah.
Even if it means taking some very painful decisions, what will be for the good of the country. So I think that courage is what is required.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for coming to the show. I think Honourable Paul Mwiru should be coming some more so that he, like, what's the word? Trains the people that you left there. Most of them are new on how their power. You are saying that Parliament has the power to do everything apart from turning a man into a woman. It seems many of them don't know. So if they are not inviting you to train them, I invite you to be training them through this forum. Thank you very much for being with us. And me, I think my takeaway from this was still what Honourable Mwiru said about what we think, where we think Parliament is wasting time anyway. That at least if other people looked at it in that way, that there will be a record tomorrow for things to be corrected, maybe we would now have the courage and the encouragement to continue doing what we are supposed to do. Thank you for being part of us. Thank you to the camera crew. Until next weekend, have a nice weekend.